The film begins with a CIA operative named John observing the adversary from the top of a skyscraper. John isn't alone at the time. He's joined by another agent named Ben, who is gaining a better look at the enemy. Ben is a veteran CIA operative who is now in charge of his CIA station, thus he is very good at his job. He's been completing dangerous assignments for many years. Ben and John are currently monitoring a Russian secret agent who may pose a threat to the US government in the near future. Yevhen, a Russian agent, spots Ben and approaches him to talk. Yevhen assures Ben that he has nothing to worry about because he is not on a Russian official mission. He is simply on vacation. Ben responds that he will continue to observe Yevhen and proposes that he take a vacation in another nation. Ben and Farah went to a cafe one evening to celebrate their wedding anniversary. Farah also works for the CIA, where she manages data at its headquarters. Ben cares greatly about Farah, and they have a son who works in another city. Farah excused herself to visit the restroom shortly after they got at the cafe, but as she walked away, there was a massive explosion. 6 months later, Ben was still devastated by the death of Farah, who died in the cafe explosion. He persisted in his investigation of the attack, determined to discover who was guilty. The next day, Ben went to Farah's grave. He prayed for her and swore to find those responsible for the catastrophe. In the afternoon, Ben met with top CIA officers. They discussed Farah's death. The officials were considering closing the case since they suspected the explosion was a gas leak rather than a bombing. Ben stormed out of the meeting. Outside, he met with the CIA director, who expressed his sympathies. The director tried to console Ben, asking him to accept Farah's death. That evening, Ben discovered on his laptop that the cafe explosion case had been closed. The CIA and other officials determined that it was simply an accident caused by a gas leak, not a bomb. At the time, Ben didn't believe this. He was convinced that someone had killed Farah on purpose, so he determined to investigate the case on his own. The next day, Ben went to the CIA office and spoke with a hacker named Desmond. He requested Desmond to review the data from the cafe explosion. Surprisingly, they discovered that some Russians were at the cafe during the explosion and may have been collaborating with Yevhen, the Russian secret agent. At the time, Desmond proposed that Ben consider Yevhen as a probable bombing suspect. After speaking with Desmond, Ben returned home to get more information about Yevhen. While going through the information, Ben became engrossed in thoughts of his happy times with Farah. He remembered a supper where they were quite happy together. During the dinner, Farah gave Ben a rare necklace called the Fatima necklace, telling him not to take it off because it would bring him good luck. Ben assured her he'd always wear it, even after he died. The scene returns to the present, as Ben is preparing to meet his colleague, John, at a cafe. Ben and John meet together, and Ben is still unhappy by Farah's death and the CIA's decision to close the case. Suddenly, he informs John that he believes Farah was murdered on purpose, not by accident, and asks for his assistance. Meanwhile, John, being a good buddy, offers to assist Ben. He also recommended that Ben get some rest. Although he doesn't say much, John is quietly investigating the situation. Ben expresses gratitude to John for his assistance before they split ways. Later, Ben pays a visit to Farah's buddy, Hitchens, to inquire whether Farah had kept any secrets. At the time, Hitchens informs him that Farah was a wonderful person who never done anything untoward. However, Hitchens discloses that Farah had saved a significant amount of money that Ben was unaware of. Farah had been sending Hitchens money to help her save for retirement. Now that Farah is gone, Hitchens offers Ben all of his saved money. In the evening, Ben visited a casino to see Yevhen. They played cards, and Ben asked Yevhen if he was to blame for Farah's death in the explosion. Yevhen, feeling humiliated since he was innocent, directed his soldiers to attack Ben, resulting in a battle. Ben was outnumbered and quickly found himself surrounded. Meanwhile, Ben's son, Nick, was home with his girlfriend. While she was out obtaining supper, some CIA officers arrived at his house. They told Nick that he needed to come with them for his own safety, claiming that his father, Ben, had sent them. Nick initially refused to leave his girlfriend alone, but he eventually consented to accompany the agents when they persuaded it was important. Yevhen was held captive in the casino. Soon, one of Yevhen's men took out a knife, not to harm Ben, but to cut the ropes that bound his hands. Yevhen then proposed they have a serious discussion about why Ben believed Yevhen was responsible for the fatal blast. Ben responded to Yevhen, pointing out that since Yevhen was a Russian secret agent, it made sense for him to target Farah, because she handled all of the CIA's information. At the time, Yevhen swore he was not responsible for the explosion, saying that he was on vacation, and had not been assigned any duty by the Russian government. To illustrate his point, Yevhen presented Ben's CCTV footage from the incident, which plainly revealed that Yevhen was not present. However, Ben recognized a man in the video who formerly worked for Yevhen. Yevhen revealed that this individual had not worked for him in a long time and had instead joined a group of American mercenaries. After hearing all of this, Ben began to believe Yevhen. They were soon attacked by the same group of American mercenaries that Yevhen had mentioned earlier. During the attack, Yevhen was shot and advised Ben to flee as swiftly as possible. Ben managed to flee and summoned John to pick him up. Soon, John arrived and drove Ben away from the scene. On the way, Ben questioned John how he got there so quickly. John explained that he happened to be in the vicinity. After fleeing the earlier onslaught, John led Ben to a secret hideout on a ship. Before boarding, Ben requested John to check on Nick because he was concerned about him. John told Ben that Nick was secure because he had dispatched a squad to watch over him. However, it turned out that the 3 CIA agents that picked up Nick were not sent by Ben, but by John himself. Meanwhile, Nick was led to a building by 3 CIA agents. He attempted to protest at the entry, but was overwhelmed and forced inside. Back on the ship, John asked Ben if Farah had handed him anything before her death. Ben said that he had not gotten anything from her, and that even if he had, it was personal and not John's concern. Then, John escorted Ben to a room on the ship to discuss something important, but as soon as they arrived, Ben was detained at gunpoint by several American mercenaries who had previously attacked him. It found out that the American mercenaries were actually working on John's command, exposing John as a traitor. The mercenaries bound Ben to a chair and began torturing him with electric shocks, wanting to know whether Farah had given him anything before she died. Despite the anguish, he insisted that he had not received anything, which resulted in additional torment. When John understood Ben was not going to offer him any information, he instructed the mercenary leader to continue questioning him. Then John left to attempt to obtain information from Nick. Just a few minutes after John left, the mercenary leader, Karen, admitted to Ben that he was responsible for blowing up the cafe and killing Farah. He claimed they did it because powerful officials in the CIA urged them to. When Ben heard that, he was stunned and couldn't understand why anyone would want to kill Farah. Before Karen could explain further, someone burst into the room to save Ben. Christina, the rescuer, revealed her identity when she removed her disguise. Ben wanted to know who Christina truly was, but she said they'd talk about it later because they needed to go right now. They moved quickly to the front room, battling and shooting John's men along the way. Karen reappeared during the battle, causing Ben to confront him. After a difficult fight, Ben defeated Karen and shoved him into the sea. Then, Ben and Christina fled in a tiny boat nearby. When they arrived at the dock, Christina drove Ben to a concealed location. On the way, Christina confessed that she was a good friend of Farah, Ben's wife. She asked Ben if Farah had ever given him a necklace named Fatima. Ben agreed and showed her the jewelry. Christina then stated that the jewelry was a key to Farah's secret room. Farah had a laptop in the room, which contained highly sensitive information. Farah had classified information concerning enormous wrongdoing by the CIA director, which is why she was targeted and killed. Knowing all of this, Ben recognized why Farah was slain and he and Nick were apprehended. It was all part of the CIA director's plan to retrieve the jewelry and gain entrance to the secret area. When they got at Farah's secret room, Ben used the necklace to unlock it and enter. Inside, he accessed Farah's laptop, which contained all of the evidence of the CIA director's corruption, including a staggering amount of money. After learning everything, Ben called John and informed him that he had the laptop containing all of the evidence against the CIA director. John then threatened to harm Ben's son, Nick, if the information was released. They agreed to trade the laptop for Nick's protection, and John provided the meeting spot. After hanging up, Christina advised Ben not to hand up the laptop because she feared John would betray them. But Ben wasn't just going to return the laptop. He was also determined to confront John once and for all. Christina agreed to help Ben with his strategy. Before they left, Ben called Desmond and emailed him a link to all of the corruption evidence. He told Desmond to make the information public if he didn't make it back. Then Ben and Christina went to the meeting site. Just before they arrived, Ben let Christina off nearby since she was going to cover him as a sniper from afar, ready to protect him throughout the fight with John. Long story short, Ben met John, but he was not alone. He was accompanied by 2 other individuals as well as a sniper on top of a building. Ben requested John to release Nick first, promising to bring over the laptop later. After Nick was liberated, Ben instructed him to get into the car. Ben soon handed over the laptop to John, stating that they were done dealing after this. But just as John was about to leave, Christina dispatched John's 2 men, leaving John alone. Ben instantly took the laptop back. Just then, Karen, who was amazingly still alive, arrived to assist John. Ben opted to flee in his car, which resulted in a pursuit and shooting. John's automobile crashed during the chase. Karen perished in the tragedy, while John escaped before the collision. Ben and Nick went over to the crash site and confirmed Karen's death. After fleeing, Ben looked for John, who had vanished. Soon, John appeared and challenged Ben to fight him without any weapons. Ben accepted the challenge after hearing that, but he quickly found himself pushed into a corner. Ben, on the other hand, was astute enough to outwit John and knock him out. An hour later, Ben returned to where he had left Christina to pick her up. Soon after, an automobile arrived. It was driven by a CIA operative, who had been ordered by John to arrest Nick the day before. The agent apologized to Ben, explaining that he had been told to safeguard Nick, not kidnap him. Ben forgiven the agent because he realized he was only following orders. Ben then requested that the agent take John to the police station to face charges for his acts. That evening, Ben called someone and requested them to provide all proof of the CIA director's misconduct at a meeting with international authorities the next morning. Ben couldn't do anything because he was still officially the CIA station chief. The following day, the director attended a meeting with other high government officials. Suddenly, every official's phone on the meeting room monitor screen received a notification with evidence of the director's corruption. At the same time, Yevon, who had previously survived an attack by American mercenaries, arrived. It comes out that Ben had contacted Yevon the night before. Yevon presented all of the proof of the director's corruption during the meeting. He even played a voice tape of the director telling John to kill Ben and Nick. Interpol arrested the director because he was unable to reject the claims. The following day, Ben was pleased when he learned of the CIA director's arrest and the arrest of others implicated in the corruption. With all the perpetrators of Farah's death apprehended, the film concludes with Ben finally able to live quietly. This film's moral message is to never trust a coworker who is overly eager to share their food, because they could be buttering you up to take your secret espionage info.